Hello and welcome to another episode of the Revenue Revolution podcast brought to you by Joint Flows. Today we're joined by Mike Pritchett. Welcome to the show, Mike. How are you?
Thank you very much. I'm very well. Good to be here.
Good, good, good. Well, we always like to start off by an introduction so our listeners know who Mike is, what you've been through to get to where you are today. Give us
Why
the
the hell
background.
should they listen to me about sales? Background. Look, 30-second version. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. So the last 2 decades built companies, mostly in the video tech space. So my previous company was Shootster. I built that up from Australia to out to 7 countries. We ended up 150 employees, 20 million ARR, and had actually by the end 72% of the world's Fortune 500 companies as clients. So the enterprise sales motion I know well. We had 30 odd people in our sales and marketing team, and I headed that space, that side of the business up. So a lot of pain, a lot of struggle through that world. I've since exited that business a few years ago and now started a company called Buzztrail. And Buzztrail is back in that sort of sales, marketing, tech space. So very early stage for us, but lots of fun conversations back in the enterprise world.
Yeah, and you guys should check Buzztrail out if you get a chance. Mike, tell us a little bit about what Buzztrail does, a quick 30
Oh,
seconds,
I'd
minute.
hate to give an elevator pitch on to it. No. Look, the elevator pitch is that we help brands with an AI interactive video avatar, sits on their website and services the very, very top of the funnel for SaaS demos. So we're very specifically in the SaaS demo space. My challenge was with my previous company, we had about 12,500 hits to the website every month, but only about 100 demos or so. So it always drove me crazy going, what's happening to the other 12,400? The goal of the interactive avatar, don't worry, SDRs, we're not here to eat your lunch and kick you out of a job. The goal is to triage the shit basically and give you the good leads as quickly as we can and connect your best humans internally with your best prospects.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, appreciate you being here, Mike. We're very excited to hear more about your story and all of the insights and knowledge that you have, which I'm sure will be valuable to all of our listeners. A good starting point is always to talk a little bit about your deal flow. What's your kind of average size? What's your sales cycle? What does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. And if it's all right, I'll probably flip back and forward between my previous life and my current life because there may be some
Absolutely.
learnings on that side. Although, starting up again now, 3 years later, I'm finding the world's completely different and it's exactly the same. It's one
Yeah.
of those everything changes and nothing changes. In our space at the moment, our average ARR is around that 30K mark. But we do have a GTM that's based around product-led growth as well, so it's a lot lower in that space. But I'm talking enterprise deals here, so around 30K ARR, and mostly mid to large size enterprise.
Awesome. And how long does that take? What's the typical deal cycle, sales cycle?
So here's my flipping back and forward. It's a bit hard to say in this early stage for us. We've only been up and running for the last few months, and we're already starting to see a few deals flow in. In my previous business, it was 3 to 6 months, which I find is pretty standard in enterprise sales.
Yeah.
Some
Absolutely.
deals in hours, but that's the dream deal.
So you've seen obviously the leadership from two lenses now, your current company and your previous companies. Let's speak about your previous company, but where would deal get stuck typically in that process?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's always, I find that we used to call it don't make it the bigger than Ben-Hur deal because, a deal can come in and start as hey, this is just going to get started. It's one department and this looks great. And then another department finds out, then another department finds out, and then it becomes this massive thing. And then all of a sudden, even a C-level's involved and wants to throw their weight around and the conversation just blows up because it just becomes too big, too hard. So that was our experience in our previous
Hmm.
company. But that was something that could start small and then expand out across a business. But still the same, we're having the conversation now. We're working with a very large fintech company, and they want to put the avatar on just one part of a website under one particular product. And so that to me is perfect. You just get in there, slim, land, and expand. That's my goal. But often it's tech, I find. When it's the tech departments come in and they want to, ask a million questions, and then it goes down the should we buy and build and all these other conversations. That can often hold it up. So getting that one champion to drive it through is often key.
Where do you typically lose track on what's happening versus what you can see in your CRM system? Like most clients use a Salesforce, a HubSpot, a Microsoft Dynamics, and they would put their deals in a funnel. Like you don't
Hmm.
have a choice not to do it, but it would sit in one of five stages, six stages,
Mm.
versus like a very complex buying journey that is not that well structured.
Hmm.
Do you tend to see that there's a gap between what you see in your CRM system and what's happening in real life?
Oh, no salesperson would ever have data outside of a CRM and put in a spreadsheet or something else, or a book like, this one here that doesn't integrate into anything. Never, no one would ever do that. Never, that would never happen. Look, the reality is, as you say, CRMs are often painful to update. They're also very binary in there. It's this stage, that stage, that stage, and by nature they have to be. But no deal fits just within those particular stages. So stages that they generally get broken. If I look back to my old team, it comes down to the optimism of the salesperson, right? Oh yeah, it's in, yeah, and they move it up as fast as they possibly can.
Love
Um,
that one.
yeah, exactly. We all love that one as a sales leader. It's coming, it's coming. Um, the the reality, I guess, is once it gets to that stage of decision maker brought in, this is all very exciting, it's happening. That's when often the brakes get thrown on and it sits there for months and months.
Yeah. The other one I love is how miraculously every deal closes on the last day of the quarter.
Oh, that's
It's never
natural.
the
That's
month
that's
before. It's
it's
not.
no, it's no,
It's
and
just
then
natural deal flow. Things always
just
tend to close like that.
natural deal flow, of course, yeah, and nothing to do with sandbagging deals or any of these sorts of things either. That's no, that never happens ever.
Absolutely. No, God forbid anyone do that. Now, one of the things we're speaking about over here is complexity within the deal, and part of what creates that complexity is the different amount of stakeholders you have to deal with from deal to deal. So, you might have those dream deals where you can get in and out, start small, land and expand, which would require minimal stakeholders. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, particularly probably more so in your previous role as well, where it
Mhm.
was more enterprise, multiple stakeholders to deal with. What's the best way, in your experience, of navigating that? Because it can often be difficult to keep everybody engaged, ensure everyone's receiving the correct information they should, and understand who needs to do what when. How do you feel people should be navigating this environment?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, and I almost feel old talking about it. But back in the day where we actually met in person and sat around a table and had boardroom meetings, it was a lot easier because you had a physical time then that you came together and said, "Hey, why don't we book this in again for next week and let's sit down and do that again." Look, I think the most important rule I live by in sales is never leave a meeting without another meeting. And then within that, never leave a meeting without clear points on who's doing what. Follow that up with an email afterwards that says, "Hey, this is what you're looking after, this is what I'm looking after, and this is how we're going to navigate this." I think that's hugely important. I obviously know the Joint Flows product, and I think it's great on that level as well. And I'm transparently, for anyone listening, become a client myself. So we're early days with Buzztrail, and really keen to push forward with that and use that. I think it is important to have a tool there. Most of the time, I think that's just being done in spreadsheets or on the side, or once again
Yeah.
back to the old paper book.
Yeah. I do love the old salesperson's paper book.
Yeah, yeah, little black
Uh,
book that doesn't integrate very well. I still haven't worked out an API for my notebook.
How do you so if you've got more and more people involved and deals are getting more and more complex because as you said, like tech gets involved and you need to validate X, Y, Z and features are being requested and it goes into engineering, and I feel like this becomes really quickly project management, right?
Mhm.
Just stay on board, stay aligned, and then keep on progressing the opportunity. Do you find that salespeople are good project managers by nature, or do they have a gap there that needs to be filled? a bit of
Salespeople
a
are shit
leading.
project managers, and myself included. And I've been a CEO. I am a founder. I've built businesses, and you have to learn these other skills. I think most people would know, the worst thing to do to a salesperson is to promote them to a sales manager, right? Because they're not that person most of the time. In fact, I'd say 90+% of the time they are not that person. What they're definitely not is an admin person or a project manager. And my first ever job in sales was what I believe is probably the truest sales team I've ever been a part of, which was selling AV equipment. So video conferencing and video walls and big stuff like that. But it was to big government, to big companies, et cetera, et cetera. And we had an entire team of sales support. And in that space, as a salesperson, I actually started in sales support, which is the worst role possible for someone like me, the poor salesperson that had to work with me. And we were just printing things out and binding things and all the stuff that a salesperson shouldn't be doing. And I still think to this day, if you're good at sales, you want to be on the phone talking to clients all the time. You want to be in meetings. We used to make a joke that the most important thing to do is to move from LinkedIn, hi, let's connect, to
Hmm.
I'm at your kid's birthday party, kicking a ball around in the backyard with my kids, right? That's where you want to get to as
Yeah.
quickly as possible. Everything else is a deviation, right? So if you're mucking around with PDFs, if you're mucking around with some other tech stack here, and I think we can all get so excited about all these other things that we can do. The goal is to get rid of all the nonsense and to be 100%
Absolutely.
focused on how do I get to their kid's birthday party and have a beer with them. And if, especially in these days with everything being so virtual, it's a lot harder to get to that stage. And sometimes you never get to that stage. But the clients that you do get on board and you are kicking around a ball in their backyard or drinking a beer with them, you're a lot more likely to get a decent sized deal and have it stick. So for me, all the tech that can streamline that process and stop salespeople being project managers, I think the better.
Mm.
100%. I couldn't agree more with that. I think where you want to get to is a point where salespeople are speaking to people and you want everything else as automated as possible, but in an intellectual way that's going to drive outcomes. So yeah,
Yeah.
totally with you on that.
And I think
Um,
most salespeople want that as well. Like we didn't get into this
oh,
profession
100%.
to sit here and frig around with Excel spreadsheets, man.
No, I'm not going to bore anyone with how I got into sales, but I can say it was a lot about going to the pub, going for lunches, speaking to people, and that's how we used to move deals forward.
Yeah.
And nothing beats a face-to-face, so I'm still constantly pushing for those. And
Yeah.
people often give me a look of surprise, like, "What? You want to
You
meet in
want to meet in
person?
person? What?
What?
How will I navigate this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How will I fit in my other two Zoom calls today?"
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
Yeah, so I think I'm sticking on topic over here as well in terms of managing these deals and these complexities. If you put on your hat as, a CEO, a leader, when you look at a pipeline review in the CRM system and you see one of these deals that's been stuck for ages, like you said, you've got these optimistic salespeople who are just moving them through the funnel, then they get there and they just kind of get stuck towards the later stages. What do you think is the best way of diagnosing what's happened over there and unstucking the deal?
Unstucking. I like that.
I don't know if that's a word, by the way, so
Well, it is now. You said it, so it is. Breathed life into it. Unstucking deals is a science, and I think you quite often find how, if I can use the technical term, bullshit deals are when people leave or get fired, right? And that's when you go and go, okay, let's take that pipeline over and let's move it to the next stage. And you go, what pipeline? Like, what was that? I called the client and they don't even know the name of our company. It's that sort of thing that which is difficult because there's no transparency, right? So it's only the notes that they've put in there. So the more you can see conversations back and forward, the more you can have some level of system that shows, hey, they said this, we said this, and I can see that conversation. I think is absolutely key. Obviously, you can go into emails and other things to find out who said what and where's it up to. Most of those things would be happening, I guess, in a sales meeting. If you've got a small sales team, it should be pretty easy. You know each one of your sales reps, you know where they're at. You sit in the sales room, look them in the eyeball and go, where's this one at? What did they actually say? And as long as you've got a good team, that should be fairly transparent. The challenge is with junior teams as well. They don't know what they don't know. So they were told, the classic as well. Oh, it's a budget issue. Well, it's never a budget issue, right? Budget's just a thing to say to get people off your back. But if you know that salesperson knows their stuff, they're going to know, okay, it's not budget, it's something else, and they've already delved down to that. So, um, look, I wish I had a magic answer for you, but having something in there that you can actually see transparently. And these days, Fathom and the likes and other call recording tools, I think, are great for that. I've become absolutely addicted to using Fathom myself. I just dive in there and I'm 45 now. My brain seems to think I'm 55 at the moment. I just can't remember meetings that I was on a week ago.
Yeah.
And so I jump in there and go, I jump to the end and go, what was actually said? So I think now as a sales leader, if you are, dedicating that time to go, everyone at that final stage of pipeline that says it's going to close, well, I want to see that meeting where they said that. What was the intent behind it? And were the
Yeah.
right
It's so
questions
easy.
asked, right? Were the right questions asked? That's the biggest thing when you're on a call as a salesperson. You've got to have the guts to ask the question. Um,
Absolutely.
so you know the next step?
I've got a lot of questions, but I'll give you two. So the first one is if you were to start again today in sales and entry level, so an SDR role or a first closing role as an AE, where do you think, what would you focus on learning to start with to get a competitive edge in your own organization? Um, like, is it business acumen? Is it project management? Is it learning specific methods, specific qualification frameworks? And the second question is, you've seen leadership pre pre AI and now in AI. What are the main changes that you've noticed?
Yeah. Look, I love that question, and the two questions go well together because I was going to ask the second with the first. My challenge with going back to the beginning and going, what would I have done differently, or what would I learn differently then? My first role was an SDR. My first role was selling advertising space in a magazine. And literally, the sales manager had this amazing tactic. They put three strings above the desk and a slip saying P45 slip, which we don't even have them in Australia. But this was an English guy, and he goes, basically that means you're fired. I was like, what? Okay. And this is my first day on the job, and he had a pair of scissors with him, and he said, look. You got to make 100 calls a day. You make 100 calls a day, you're fine. You don't, you make 99, I snip one of the cords. Get it? I was like, righto. And I was like 19. I'm going, well, I know my job. That's great. I know my job. It's clear. Let's go. And I made 100 minimum calls every day and just smashed it. Right. And it took me a long time to get a deal through, but I made the calls and I got it done. Right. I actually think that kind of leadership needs to be brought back, and people just need to sit at their desk and make
Oh,
100 calls a
100%.
day, right? Like just, and every time I see it, no matter what it is with AI, with anything else, with all these changes, with all the stuff going on, I think we've got so many tools these days that people think they can just pass that off to someone else and not make 100 calls a day. And now, if we get back to the very simple rule of you want to be having beers with them out the back, kicking a ball around, whatever that is, that moment, you don't get to there without the phone call, and you don't get there with a million LinkedIn messages. That's a start. Great. Automate it. Go next. Automate the emails. Go next. But get on the phone, right? And as a young SDR, that skill of getting on the phone, I think, is so important. For me, actually, I rarely admit this, but why don't I admit it now? I tried Amway when I was like 18, 17, 18, something like that. And I did it for a while. I got up to like the top bracket because I just went, right, I'm going to do whatever they say. And their sales training was ridiculously good. It's really down to, can you meet someone on the train on the way to work and be in their living room that evening selling them the dream of starting a business and doing this thing? Right now, I don't recommend anyone go and do Amway, but great sales training, because I literally did sit on the train in the morning and then I was in their living room that evening. So making a phone call didn't phase me at all. That was just like, yeah, this is easy. I can sit at a desk making
Yeah.
100 calls and get paid. So I would say the skill they need to learn is, and I would go back and relearn, is the tenacity to make 100 calls without wavering one little bit about the results, and just keep doing it until the wave starts to build and break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We make 100 call a day, still.
Nice.
And I think if I was to go back to something, I think that's probably what we get the most learning from. If you
Mm.
can make an
Mm,
impact on 20 seconds to get someone to then commit to more time, you know your elevator pitch, you know how to position it, you know what's gonna work well, you know what resonates well, you know what's priority for people, and you can create a report really
Yeah,
quickly. And I think that's
absolutely.
just everything else just derives from it.
You're absolutely right. And for me, it's interesting. Most people think, oh, you build a company, you exit a company, it's the dream, fantastic, go sit on a beach, and that's brilliant, right? You sit on a beach and if you're an entrepreneur, you get pretty bored pretty quickly, right? You start going, okay, I'm going to start selling beach chairs if I stay here too long. So let's move on to the next thing. And I came up with the idea for Buzztrail. I wanted to get it started. I sat at my desk and I literally felt like I've gone from 150 employees, multiple departments, all of this money coming in and just literally making decisions, bang, 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 uh, to me, myself, and ChatGPT. We literally sat there going, we being me and ChatGPT, going, what do I do next, right? And
yeah.
honestly, the honest truth, I sat back and I went, okay, what should I do next? 100 calls a day. That's all I need to do. I just need to go back to the basics. And it was really hard for me to not just go, hey, let's just throw a bunch of money at a problem before I know what the problem is, right? So I got a WhatsApp group. This is actually funny we're talking about this because this is how we met, right? I went
That's
through
right.
the WhatsApp group and I went, okay, I won't say which one, and went, I'm just going to try it, right? Anyone that's commenting on this sort of stuff, I'm going to build a list, bang, let's go. And I just called 100 people a day and had conversations. And most people that answered the phone were like, wow, I haven't had a cold call in a
In
decade.
ages. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it because I'm not calling to sell them an EE plan. I'm calling them with a proper business conversation from a proper business person, and people appreciate it. So, and that's what got things started. That's how I'm here today.
Yeah. I always appreciate a good cold caller. If I'm not in a meeting, I'll give them the time
Yeah.
because I know how valuable they are. But then the question, Mike, becomes why are people so uncomfortable doing cold calls now? Because it's true, I think there's a direct correlation between the ability to pick up the phone, make hundreds of phone calls to meetings booked, which ultimately down the path lead to revenue.
Yeah.
Yet not everybody does it. So why is that?
I hate to be the guy that always answers with an analogy, but let's go again. Obviously, water flows down the easiest path, right? And I
Yeah,
used to have this fun analogy that with salespeople that you have to hire salespeople that are smart enough to be good at being salespeople, but dumb enough not to be anything else, right? And sorry for all the listeners out there. I'm a salesperson too. I'm dumb enough not to be everything else.
yeah,
Because the problem is, it's like a field, right? You're looking at a field. It's just a field of dirt. You know there's gold underneath. You've been told there's gold underneath. You got a shovel in your hand, and you go, right, let's go. You walk out into the field. Everyone starts shoveling. Of course, sooner or later, somebody's going to go, oh, there's got to be a smarter way to do this, right? And they're going to go off and they're going to try and find a bulldozer, a tractor, an excavator, something to start digging at a bigger scale and do this at mass. There's AI, it can do all these things. I'm going to do something. I'm going to jump into Replit and build my own blah, 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 blah,
mm,
blah, right? They walk over, they found this old tractor. They start to go, okay, it doesn't quite work. I've got to fix the tractor. I've got to make this work, that work. They go down, they get it fixed. They spend all this money, they spend all this time. They get the boss to spend extra time on the tractor, everything else. By the time they finally get around to driving their tractor back onto the field, ready to go, there's this SDR that's just been digging and he's already taken all the gold, right? Like he's well ahead. Now, I'm not saying
yeah,
that go to market teams and RevOps teams shouldn't go and build a tractor. Of course they can. And of course they should. And of course, founders should. That's a RevOps conversation. And SDR needs to dig, like just dig, just make the calls, just get in there, and that's the motion that will teach the tractor what to do, but B will actually get you ahead in very tangible steps. So I think these days with AI and everything else, if you don't have a RevOps team and you're just one person starting out, yes, dive in there, grab the tools, put them to work, and then forget about them and go and do your thing best, which is, I believe, calling. And the reason people don't do it is because it's uncomfortable. Let's be honest. Even the
yeah,
100 calls I made and calling you guys, every call was, oh, and I'm thinking, why am I feeling this way? Like, why am I? And I guess for me personally, it's because I'd been there, done that, become a CEO, exited, and I felt like an idiot sitting there on the phone again. But I would
Yeah.
hope as a young SDR, you shouldn't feel like an idiot. You're out there, building your strides and flexing that muscle that then builds as you go on.
Yeah, I remember your call to me, Mike, because you didn't have my number saved, but it was accessible through that WhatsApp group. So you were like, apologies, but I don't quite know your name, but I know we're part of this group. And I was like, yeah, go on
Yeah,
then.
that's called poor preparation right there. But you know what? I did it. I did it anyway. I did it
He's
anyway.
like, it
I was,
worked.
and so many, I just had like initials. I was like, "Hi, TM."
Yeah, my WhatsApp, if you don't know my name, it just says H on it because that's my nickname that all my
Yeah.
friends called me growing up. So it's even more difficult because you'd be like, H? That could be anything.
Yeah. So there were a few awkward ones there. And look, I only got one person out of, I think it was a couple of hundred. I only got one person giving me any level of heat for using the that particular chat group. I'm not encouraging everyone to
Really?
go cold call chat group, but the only heat was literally like, well, you're not really supposed to be calling this group. And I just said, hey, look, totally fair and feel free to hang up on me. I just had some really good conversations and people valued what I was offering. So I thought I'd just, go through and chat with people. And by the end, he became the biggest fan and actually ended up raving about us through his company and
Nice.
being the champion. So I was like, well, we turned it around. And I think that's the most important thing with all sales and business relationships. Quite often the ones that are there's friction at the start or there's a problem then you're in there to solve or something goes wrong and you turn it around and do it well for them, you over deliver and then you get great traction.
Good old trauma bonding.
Exactly.
Uh, I was gonna ask, so I think I agree with you. Like we do a lot of AI application stuff. We've redone the entire pricing strategy looking at AI and doing a market research. We would have taken probably 6 months to do, and
Mhm.
by month six, probably nothing would be relevant. Everything would be obsolete. We would have to go back again. Where do you feel like, in a business sense, where do you feel AI goes too far? So
Mm.
I'm not speaking about Grok making people look naked and wearing
Yeah.
underwears and all of that, but like it's business lens.
That's probably too far for business. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, on a business context, I think you've just got to be very, very clear. Is this a distraction or is this bringing a real world ROI? For us, for example, with Buzztrail, some people may go, oh, it's a bit of a gimmick to have an avatar talking. Like we have a clear mission to help companies explain their offering more easily and for prospects to be able to get their answers more easily. That's it, right? It's not about the AI. The actual interaction there is about how quickly can I have a good conversation that feels natural and get the answers that I want. And then in the back end, the CRM being filled out and all those sorts of things helps that deal move forward. Um, what we're not about is just going, hey, it's shiny and fun and this is a toy, or as ChatGPT sometimes does, just throws out a word salad and then you can end up, you know, going down a wormhole feeling like this is great because ChatGPT said it was, when it's a load of rubbish, right? So I think with any activity that you do in anything, including Replit and all the other things you build, you've literally got to use your phone and put a timer on and just go, I'm giving this half an hour, right? And then I'm going to sit back and I'm going to sense check that as an individual, as a company, as everything, and just go, am I wasting time running down a rabbit hole here? Because you can do it for days. And I did it when starting Buzztrail. I was looking around at the world was my oyster. I could do anything. I could sit on a beach and do nothing, or I could dive down one business or another. And it was just me. So I'm chatting away with ChatGPT, and I went down all sorts of rabbit warrens for days on dumb stuff that it was just going, great, Mike, you're amazing. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm an idiot. Like, sit back, write down, where am I at? And actually make logical decisions on it because there are so many tools out there, I think, that are just cool to have, but don't actually get results.
Yeah. So what do you see as like the future state of sales then? How do you see like an end-to-end sales process look like? How would a rep navigate it?
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting, isn't it? Because there are going to be bots selling to bots, agents to agents. There will definitely be that agentic discussion going on and deals being closed. I think there are certain deals that, our avatar, for example, could take handle at the front, send out a discount code, get them signed up, done. No humans involved. Um, but that just escalates again the importance of people to people on real, ARR, actual higher level deal size. When you're talking about decent sized contracts, enterprise value stuff, it comes back to relationships, right? I hope we see a shift, and I think we already have post COVID of people coming back in and saying, no, no, we need to actually meet in person. Let's do this. Let's go to conferences and events. Let's discuss, these sorts of things where you can actually meet human to human. I think is just going to come back stronger. I think people are craving that as well. And if you can be the kind of person that offers that, it also sets you apart, right? If you're here in London and you're talking to somebody here in London, you're going to have a better conversation than somebody, coming in from the other side of the world, also competing on that same deal just because they can jump on a Zoom call or even not jump on a Zoom call.
I was going to ask Mike whilst Hitesh is trying to find what the last question was from a previous guest. What would be the mistake you're going to avoid making again in your new business? I don't know if you can share like something that we can leverage during the call.
Have we got
Um,
another 3 hours for the?
I'm personally interested in the question, so if you can be honest about it, that would be great.
Uh, um, can I give a really sappy answer? It's the honest answer, and it's what's come to my head as the first one. Um, I'm gonna stop and smell the roses. I'm gonna appreciate the whole thing. I'm gonna appreciate the journey. Um, like that's the honest truth. When I look back, some of my best friends now, um, are people that I employed in that business and worked with in the trenches, and we went through hell together to build that thing, right? Um, and so coming out the other side, they're my go-to. They're my buddies, right? They're the ones that I would stick with. At the time, though, um, we were just hustling for a finish line. We were just racing towards it, which you've got to do. You've got to hustle. But it's a long journey. It's all the standards, sprint, not a marathon, all that sort of stuff. 10 years when I was 35, I thought that was a really long time. Now I think it's a really short time. So, in that journey, everyone says it as well. Every single founder that's exited, you go, what was the best time? Was it, sitting on the beach after you'd exited? And they're like, no, it was that early hustle. It was that first few deals.
Mm,
It was that excitement of somebody, buying and us being able to deliver. And I'm back at that stage now, and it's exciting. Like it's really fun. Like I freaking love when Tom, our avatar, delivers a lead in, and I'm like, hey, he had a conversation. This is great. It's coming, and it's working. That's fantastic, And they're the things that now, I'm riffing back and forwards with Lars, my CTO, and it's just fun, right? We're back at that early days, and I just don't want to lose that because I think as a salesperson, as a CEO, as a founder, there's so much hard stuff in building a business, and you think you're grinding for an exit when the reality is the stuff that you're living right there and then. It's the journey, right? And it's so token to
mm,
say, I know, but this is from a place of actually being done that, built there, out the other side, looking back, going, man, those early days were wicked.
yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Um, all right. Well, look, we do have a bit of a closing tradition on here, which is the last guest who was on the podcast has left a question for the next guest, not knowing who it would be. So
Ooh,
that's
here we go.
yourself. And so we're going to ask you the question. And after that, I would like for you to leave a question for the next guest too. So the question that's been left for you is if you were to do it all again, what would you do different?
Hmm. I hate not thinking about these because otherwise I know you have to put some thinking music for your audience while I sit here and look, I think the I would work earlier with partners and build out partnerships quicker. I think partnerships can be really, really powerful, and partnerships can lead to a nice, smooth exit with those partners. Um, I would spend more time with customers as a CEO. I think that the
Yeah.
reality is, when you scale a business, to the size I did. Not that it was, multi-billion dollar or anything, but it was 20 million ARR. It was, we had the challenge was we were all around the world, right? And then COVID hit and everything else, which made it hard for me to actually spend time with clients. But I would spend more time with key clients and get to know personally, not just through the team, personally get to know them, go and go to their kids' birthday parties, have a beer with them. Because as a CEO, I became quite removed from that. This time around, I'm going to make sure I'm doing that so that you hold those relationships all the way to and through exit and out the other side, and also you network harder. Probably another thing I would have done that I didn't do. I was offered to join EO and others, YPO, sorry, YPO and others, well, the others being EO, and I turned it down just because I was too busy. I shouldn't have. That's a network for life. Post exit, you're out the other side and you no longer have that identity as a founder of that company. So I would definitely say make those connections, build those networks with other founders and entrepreneurs and salespeople if you're not a founder that you can keep post company.
Awesome. And what question would you like to leave for our next guest?
Oh, why do men have nipples? No.
We'll ask that one, but if we could have another one as well, that'd be great.
We've got two questions for you.
Couldn't help myself. Couldn't help myself. Um,
Good question,
what's
though.
the one rule that they have learnt to make a successful sale?
Very good question.
That's
Very
very
I look
strong.
forward to seeing the answer to that.
Yeah.
Well,
So
Mike, thank you
make sure you
so
ask
much
the
for
other question as well, though. I
no,
want to
that's
hear
the one
that.
I'm going to lead with. That's going to be the first one. So,
Yeah.
and that's how we secure your viewership for the next episode as well. So you can
Brilliant.
see the answer to it. But thank you so much for joining us, Mike. It's been an absolute pleasure. I think our listeners are going to get a lot of value from this as well. To our listeners, thanks for tuning in. This has been the Revenue Revolution podcast brought to you by Joint Flows. Until next time, bye for now.
Bye bye.
Thank you.